What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I am a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. This week is a major step change. Things feel different this week than they have for the past couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks have been very rowdy, very in your face with the energy, very loud talking, saying a lot of stuff, talking a lot of shit. This kind of thing has been a very big deal for the past couple of weeks while we've had that Mercury in Gemini. This week, we're seeing not only, also for a couple of weeks there, we had Venus in Aries. So Venus has already moved into Taurus. Venus moved into Taurus on Friday, on Venus's day. Love to see it. Love all of the Venus stuff. Sort of, in Aries, Venus is not at home. Venus doesn't really know what to do in that space. If Venus's job is to bring things together, to cooperate, then in the sign of the axe or the match flame, then that's not easy for Venus to do. Whereas in Taurus, the sign of the plow and of the garden and things like that, like sensuous delights, make perfect sense for Venus. And so there's a sense of ease and ability for Venus to do stuff there. Now, so Aries is super quick energy, match flame, strike the match and it burns super brightly, and then it's kind of done after that, and it hopefully gets something moving, right? It's the spark. Taurus, on the other hand, is going to be pretty steadfast in the way that it operates. It's slow moving. And so there's a speed change there. There's also a speed change associated with Mercury moving from Gemini and into Cancer. So Mercury is quick in Gemini, has a lot of things to say, wants to talk about it super quickly. And then moving into Cancer, this is Mercury moving into a water sign. This is one of the places where Mercury does better with listening and impression rather than speaking and expression, right? We can think of two main Mercury modes with, because Mercury is our communication planet, right? Mercury is the one who both speaks and listens. Communication has to have both of those things take place in order for the understanding to take place. The communication relies on both speaking and listening, or writing and reading. So Mercury in Cancer in a water sign is going to be more about listening than about speaking. Now, this is going to be really good for your arts project or something like that, especially since we've got this Venus in Taurus here. Love to see it, right? That kind of thing is going to work much more deeply. It's going to have this kind of resonance to it. But there is less emphasis on the prosaic, saying stuff and being immediately intelligible. Speaking of which, if you want things to be immediately intelligible, you want help understanding what's going on in the astrology, and especially in the astrology of your chart specifically, check it out, zambonifunk.com. You can get readings there. You can get the 10-minute transit touch point, which is essentially this 10-minute reading, but specifically for you. That is available at zambonifunk.com. If you would like to chat with me, we can get on Zoom and do that. That's also available. You can also go there and listen to music. There's a podcast. There is merch available as well. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff. The Zamboni Funk Enterprise has been building out stuff for a long time. If you want to understand astrology yourself, there's a fundamentals course called Astrology from the Ground Up. There's a whole gang of cool stuff there. Go check it out, zambonifunk.com. And if you like what I'm doing here, you can always send me a tip via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Super appreciate y'all for doing that. So, Mercury in Gemini, very much about narrative and storytelling, wants to tell you what is going on and break down the details of it. Mercury in Cancer is much more feelings oriented, gonna feel how stuff feels and sounds, and notice the, not just the content of the words, but how it felt when it came across. You're going to notice body language, all of this sort of stuff. That's going to be much more important to a Mercury in Cancer. What we also see this week is Jupiter moving from Gemini into Cancer. Now, this is pretty monumental. This momentous is the word I was looking for there. This is a pretty big moment here when we're thinking about Jupiter being a Jupiter transit takes about a year. Jupiter will stay in a sign for about a year. And so Jupiter moving from Gemini, for where Jupiter has been for the last year, and into Cancer is a pretty big deal, especially since Gemini is a place where Jupiter isn't super well resourced. It's the same situation as Venus in Aries. This is Jupiter in Gemini is as far away from home as possible. And so there's a kind of difficulty in doing the Jupiter, the sort of like large wisdom, grandiose abundance, expansion, improvement, all that sort of stuff. Like Mercury and Gemini are very much about sort of like dividing things and understanding the details of stuff, whereas Jupiter tends to be bigger picture about things. So moving Jupiter into Cancer, where Jupiter is exalted, Jupiter is very good at doing the Jupiter things in Cancer, very good at nourishing things and growing things and making lush abundance happen in the garden or in the home space or something like this. Like Jupiter is really good at doing the Jupiter things in this space. Also, this is slower. This is going to be more impressive than expressive, right? And so we're going to see this week a major shift in where we had a lot of zip going on, where there had been a lot of talking and a lot of sort of like posturing and stuff like that. This week, it's going to be much more embodied about what's going on here. Now, we are not quite to our most exciting Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer is going to last for a whole year, and there's going to be plenty of strong benefit to be had there. In the immediate term, we're going to immediately see a square to Saturn in Aries, and so there still are some breaks on what Jupiter is doing, but this definitely looks like an improvement as far, like Jupiter in Cancer square to Saturn in Aries is honestly going to be good for that Saturn. Saturn in Aries doesn't really know what to do with himself. Saturn, that's Saturn in a fallen position. And so that looks like that is well supported by Jupiter, and Jupiter is well resourced and in good position to do supporting. And so I like to see Jupiter in Cancer, even though we are not to the most delicious and wonderful Jupiter in Cancer quite yet. We're not to that point yet, but we are getting there. We've been ever since January, we've been sort of like getting out of muck and into things that might be a little bit more salient and useful. Now we've got Venus in Taurus. Venus is one of our benefics and is in comfortable position, and Jupiter is the other benefic in comfortable position. We have both of those now, working on some beautiful and delightful things. Love to see it headed in this direction. But what's really interesting here is that this week is less about talking and more about feeling things, and maybe there's a little bit of unexpected doing as well. I think it's really interesting that Mars is still in Leo. I haven't talked about Mars in a little while now, and honestly, it's been kind of nice. Mars had been causing a lot of ruckus and trouble for a while. This week, Mars in late Leo is going to make a square to Uranus in Taurus. Mars square Uranus. Mars is the aggression planet, the one who wants to like push on stuff and get things going and motivate in some kind of way. Often Mars style motivation is going to be prickly or sharp or burn in some kind of way. It's going to be something uncomfortable that pushes you to get something more effective or stronger or faster happening. It's a spur, right? So Mars feels that way, and then a square is going to be some kind of conflict or tension, some kind of like breaking point might want to come through, especially since we're seeing a square to Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is the planet of upset, surprise, unexpected things, chaos, disruption, breakups, breakdowns, breakthroughs, break free, liberation, break chains, all that sort of stuff comes up in a big kind of way. So what we're seeing this week is less talking and maybe some swinging. So especially since like the same day on Saturday, this coming Saturday, then we're gonna see that's when the exact square between Mars and Uranus happens. On that same day, we've got the moon in Aquarius conjunct Pluto. So that looks like it's the kind of thing that might be like a little shifty, might be a little like concerned about power dynamics, how are others wielding power and this kind of thing, and might be in position to like feel uncomfortable about stuff and maybe make a quick move that could shift some power and authority. So where you are in a power dynamic where you might have been posturing or arguing or debating and like trying to get ahead in words, actions might come through this week. It's a good week to be aware of literally where bodies are in space. And less words, more body this week.